great. Sounds great. So at this point, let's just make sure Canada's up on your stand first. Stand here. Let's get them.
Testing, testing. English, English. Testing English.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask members of council to take their seats, on va commencer la réunion dans une minute. We'll start the meeting in one moment. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Bienvenue à la conseil municipal de la ville d'Ottawa pour le 11 février.
Welcome to Ottawa City Council meeting.
7th of February 2015. For those who are able to, could you please stand for prayer and remain standing for the national anthem? Almighty God, let us work together to serve all our people. Dieu, tu es puissant, aidez-nous à travailler ensemble afin de bien servir nos citoyens. We're very pleased to have a special group to perform and sing our national anthem. I'll ask Councillor Hubley to introduce his constituents. Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's with great pleasure that I ask you to join me in welcoming the Glencairn Handbell Band. The Handbell Band is comprised of grade 8 students and is led by music teacher Mr. Carl Fraser. Mr. Fraser has been working with these students since the beginning of last year and has been teaching the bells for over 12 years. I am fortunate to get to hear the Handbell Band every holiday season as they perform around Canada, but this is the first time that we're going to get to hear them play the national anthem. Mr. Mayor and fellow councillors and guests, I would like to present the Glencairn Handbell, who are joined by Morgan, Abby, Soya, and Isabel, who will be singing along with them today. Thank you.
Well, that was terrific. Thank you very, very much. I think, as Councillor Hubley pointed out, this is the first time we've had a choir perform with bells. So you did a great job, Glencairn. I think they deserve another round of applause. Congratulations. Well done. At this time, I'd like to invite Kerry McLean, as well as his wife Christine, to the podium for this meeting's City Builder Award presentation, and invite Mr. McLean's councillor Tim Tierney to join us as well. J'inviterai aussi son conseiller Tim Tierney.
I would also invite Mr. McLean's councillor Tim Tierney to join us.
Carrie has been touching the lives of youth in our community for over 30 years. As a high school teacher and coach, he has touched generations of young people through his passion for excellence in the classroom and on the court. Comme enseignant au niveau secondaire,
As a high school teacher and coach, he has touched generations of young people through his passion for excellence in the classroom and on the court.
he used sport to foster leadership, organizational, team, and life skills in his students and athletes.
Carrie has used sport to foster leadership, organizational, team, and life skills in his students and athletes.
As a coach, Carrie has helped guide athletes to provincial, national, and international accolades in volleyball, but instilling these life skills has always been his priority. As founder and president of the Ottawa Mavericks Volleyball Club, Carrie has volunteered his time for over 30 years, creating programs for athletes of all ages and abilities. The Mavs have grown from their small beginnings of a single volleyball club to 27 teams with over 75 volunteers and coaches, many of whom are returning players, a testament to the passion and guidance they received and now want to instill in the next generation of athletes. Thanks to Carrie's continued leadership in developing these youth athletically as well as personally, the Mavericks were the first of only 3 clubs certified nationally as a Volleyball Canada accredited club. This certification is significant to our community as it does not only take into consideration athletic success, it includes the diversity of programs offered, accessibility, and a keen focus on developing the skills required to become a successful student athlete. Thank you, Carrie, for your dedication to volleyball as well as inspiring and teaching the skills necessary for generations of young people to give back to their community. Merci, Carrie, de vous être consacrée.
Thank you, Carrie, for your dedication to volleyball as well as inspiring and teaching the skills necessary for generations of young people.
With the Mayor's City Builder Award, along with my colleague, Councillor Tierney. Thank you for the tremendous work you continue to do, and best of luck in the years ahead. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Come on out here. We'll get Tim on the other side now.
I guess at a time like this, I just want to say, first of all, thank you to the Mayor, the City of Ottawa for all the support over the years. Following a life dream is great. You never expect to come to something like this, but you also never get a chance to do what you do without the support of incredible people around you. So I'd like to thank the members of the organization, my family, my parents for moving to Ottawa, leaving New Brunswick. Great decision. And of course, my inspiration for everything, my wife, Chris. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Carrie. For our next presentation, I'd like to invite Brian Waters, General Manager of Myers Orleans, representing the Myers Automotive Group, and Councillor Bob Monette, Ward Councillor for Myers Orleans, to come forward and join me at the podium. Welcome, Brian. Nice to have you and your wife with us today. And Councillor Monette, Deputy Mayor. On behalf of the City of Ottawa and my colleagues on City Council, I'd like to recognize and thank Brian and Rob Muse and the Myers Automotive Group for their exceptional support of the city's Parks, Recreation and Cultural Services Department's summer community programming. J'aimerais saluer et remercier au nom.
On behalf of the City of Ottawa and my colleagues on City Council, I would like to recognize and thank Rob Muse and the Myers Automotive Group.
Orleans, through their Chevrolet and Nissan dealers, have been generously donating 4 vehicles for the summer community programming. The sponsorship helps enable the Parks, Recreation and Cultural Services Department to continue to offer important community programs such as Youth on the Move and the Participate program, among others. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend our appreciation to the Myers Automotive Group for their support and investment in our community.
I would like to take this opportunity to extend our appreciation to the Myers Automotive Group for their support and investment in our community. Et nous avons... Oh.
Including a picture of one of the vehicles with some of our lifeguards. We'll give that to Bob. Also thank to Dan Chenier and our staff for organizing that sponsorship. Our next presentation is the United Way Achievement Announcement. I'd like to invite City Manager Kent Kirkpatrick, Dan Chenier, General Manager, Parks, Recreation, Cultural Services, Lisa Allaire, Chief Corporate Communications, our co-chairs of the City of Ottawa United Way Employee Campaign, and Mark Sutcliffe, United Way Ottawa 2014 Campaign Co-Chair, to come forward for the next presentation. Welcome. Mark, how are you? Now, you can't ask any councillors questions today, okay, Mark? I'd like to also acknowledge Michael Allen, President and CEO of the United Way Centraide, and other United Way representatives who are with us today, as well as members of the City of Ottawa campaign team for being here today. Today, I have the pleasure of announcing the achievement of the City of Ottawa United Way 2014 Employee Campaign. But before I announce that, I wanted to say a few words about our city's efforts. Since it was designated the corporate charity of choice for the City of Ottawa in 2001, the city has raised more than $7 million for the United Way Centraide Ottawa, and Mark pointed that out this morning on his radio show. The results we have achieved through this year's United Way campaign shows us that when we work together, we can achieve great things.
The results we have achieved through this year's United Way campaign shows us that we can achieve great things when we work together.
You can truly be proud to know that the money that you have helped raise will go towards making a difference in the lives of those individuals in our city who need it most. I know that a lot of city employees helped make this campaign a success. Everything from bake sales to the 50-50 draw to barbecues and many other activities in between. And thank you to all who supported the United Way campaign through your generous donations. Your generosity and commitment to make our city a better place in which to live is truly appreciative. Merci de votre générosité.
Thank you for your generosity and commitment to make our city a better place in which to live.
As of February 6, 2015, the campaign has raised $460,645, which is 92% of our $500,000 goal. And it's a little-known fact that the two co-chairs have to make up the difference of $40,000. So we thank you very much for your generosity. You know, the United Way tells us that it's enough to change the lives of 1,646 people. Congratulations, félicitations, and I now ask Kent Kirkpatrick to say a few words.
Just got back from 400 kilometers of snowmobiling and I'm a little stiff, so I apologize for the time it took, but thank you. Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Je suis très fier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today I'm very proud to recognize and celebrate the efforts of our employees in making this year's United Way campaign a huge success.
The fundraising total demonstrates that our employees truly have made a serious commitment to this important community campaign. La générosité de nos employés est le reflet fidèle de
The generosity of our employees is a true reflection of our commitment to our community and to the United Way.
I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to all staff who came forward and became part of the success of our United Way campaign this year. Et merci de travailler à bâtir une communauté.
And thank you for contributing to a better community.
Leaders. And each year, the United Way campaign is led by 2 management representatives who serve as leaders and champions in this organization. And this year, we were very fortunate, as we all know, to have Lisa Allaire and Dan Chenier working together as campaign co-chairs. It's my pleasure to present you both with leadership certificates today, along with my sincere thanks for your outstanding work on this year's campaign. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Kent, and thank you to Lisa and Dan. And I'd ask Mark Sutcliffe. As you know, Mark was one of the co-chairs of the citywide campaign and did a tremendous job. It takes a lot of work. As a former chair myself of that campaign, I know the demands on one's time, and I think people know how busy Mark is in his business life and his media life, but to take this on, it was quite a coup for the United Way to get someone of Mark's caliber. So Mark, great to have you here and ask you to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Watson, and I appreciate that. And I guess, you know, when you chaired the campaign, it was just one person who did it. Now it takes 2, and maybe that's a reflection of how hard you worked when you did it. So I appreciate the leadership that you've shown and the support that you've shown to United Way. I also wanted to congratulate you on your first skate on the canal yesterday. Very impressive, and I understand that the Maple Leafs are going to be in touch about a tryout because they need all the help they can get. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here to say a very heartfelt thank you to the employees of the City of Ottawa for their generosity. As the Mayor mentioned, since amalgamation, this group of employees has donated more than $7 million to United Way activities, and that's incredible support. This is my hometown, and it's a city of great opportunity and great prosperity. And despite that, this is something that bugs me every day. Despite that, we all know that there are people who are left behind in our community, that it's not enough to simply offer opportunities to people. We have to go beyond that and connect with them and make sure that the obstacles that are in their paths towards those opportunities are removed. That's what the United Way is all about. And I think you know that as employees of the City of Ottawa and as city councillors. You're people who are working in this area every day trying to make our city a better place. You do that in your professional lives, and then separate from that, you organize events to raise money for important causes like United Way. So we really appreciate that. And I want to say a special thank you to Lisa and Dan for the great leadership that you've shown in this campaign and for putting in all the time that it takes to organize all of these events. You have a special advantage because I know whenever there's a bake sale, the mayor's going to be there. That's automatic. So maybe you get a little bit of extra revenue that way. But it's not easy raising this kind of money. And the City of Ottawa employees, their contributions, they go to so many of the things that United Way does every day through its partners and its programs. And the city invests in 72 of the 108 frontline programs and services where there's a United Way investment. So we really are partners in making the community a better place. As well, we're really grateful for the fact that the city, over the years, has loaned several of its employees to serve on the United Way campaign as loaned representatives. This is something that's been a part of the campaign every year for more than 15 years, meaning that city staff take a break from their regular duties and work full-time at United Way instead, and they engage with United Way staff and volunteers, and those relationships last beyond the campaign, of course, and are part of continuing to make the city a better place. So once again, thank you. Thank you to all the members of the committee that were led by Lisa and Dan. Thank you to the co-chairs. I understand the co-chairs on council were Rainer Blois and Doug Thompson, who were so exhausted after that they couldn't run for re-election. But thank you to all the members of council. I know you're all supporters of United Way as well. We're very, very grateful for the commitment that's been made and the support that you're showing. And we promise we're going to invest that money as effectively as possible to get results in our community. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Mark and Dan and Lisa, for being with us today. Our final presentation involves 211. I'd invite the following to come forward. Le conseiller Mathieu Fleury, who is the Ottawa City Council champion for 211. Sean Kelly, Chair of the Board of Directors of the Community Information Centre, and Michael Allen, President and CEO of the United Way Ottawa, Centraide Ottawa, to come forward. Welcome. Bienvenue. Have you here? 211 Ottawa and Eastern Region is a non-profit bilingual organization that connects people through multilingual mediated access to community, social, health, and government services in their community. The 211 phone number and website are important gateways to information in the community that matters to residents. When you don't know where to go for information about community services, 211 is there to help.
When you don't know where to go for information about community services, 211 is there to help.
It is available to all residents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in more than 100 languages. When a resident dials the 211 hotline, they are connected to a certified information and referral specialist who can help them find the services and information they need quickly and easily. It's with great pleasure that I proclaim February 11th, 211 Day in the City of Ottawa. C'est avec grand plaisir que je proclame.
It is with great pleasure that I proclaim February 11, 211 Day in the City of Ottawa.
To Mr. Kelly and to Michael, and then ask him to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Watson, members of council. We can all agree that Ottawa has a strong community, and we have many quality organizations and supports that people can access when they need them. Unfortunately, identifying exactly what you need and who can help is often the biggest barrier to connecting people in need with the appropriate supports in a timely manner. Many years ago, when United Way, the City of Ottawa, and others came together to create 211 service in Ottawa, we imagined a day when our community could call one simple, easy-to-remember number and obtain guided access to all the appropriate and available social services at their disposal. Today, that service we imagined is a reality. And the Community Information Centre of Ottawa is proud to be the service delivery partner for 211 locally and throughout Eastern Ontario. Our dedicated team of information and referral specialists field more than 4,000 calls a month and have the ability to refer to over 9,000 local resources from our database. We offer services in English, French, and over 150 additional languages through our interpreter service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At the system level, 211 plays a critical role in rounding out the important services that 311 and 911 offer to the city's residents, and we contribute important social data about what services are required and where there are gaps. Today's proclamation of 211 Day in Ottawa is an important acknowledgement of the role 211 plays in supporting our community to our very best collective ability. On behalf of the board and staff, we'd like to thank Mayor Watson, Council, the United Way, and our partners for this important recognition of our contribution toward making Ottawa such an incredible city to live in. And finally, I'd like to extend my personal thanks to Councillor Fleury and Chief Bordelot, who, as our city champions, have been very supportive of 211, getting the message out, and included it in this celebration of 211 Day here in Ottawa. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you. Let me just add a couple of remarks, but first let me do so as a parent. It was a surprise for me this morning, Mr. Mayor, when I saw Terry McLean here. He actually was celebrated this morning for being a community builder, and the passion of which he speaks in terms of his role as a mentor and teacher, I experienced through my children. They both had Terry McLean as their coach and their teacher. I want to acknowledge that and thank you for recognizing him today. And as well, this is a perfect opportunity to complement the presentation and the words that our campaign chair, co-chair Mark Sutcliffe offered about the work that the City of Ottawa and the United Way manifest together, not the least of which, of course, is our campaign. So thank you to the City of Ottawa, to Lisa and to Dan for the leadership that they offered, and to the whole committee that I know is celebrating back there the achievement. Thank you very much for that. 211 is a great example, but one of dozens and dozens and dozens of examples where the United Way and the City of Ottawa work very closely together. And I say the United Way, through our relationship, though, represents one of the challenges that 211 is designed to address, is that as community organizes itself and provides services to heal itself and deal with its issues, having a partner in the City of Ottawa is critically important. Having a partner to help navigate and support the navigation of all of those services is the role that 211 plays. And so I want to thank you for recognizing the importance of 211, for being there as a partner, for being there as a supporter, and we look forward to working throughout your term. Thank you very much.
A roll call, Madam Deputy Clerk, please.
Conseiller Manette.
What's up?
Councillor Middick.
Present.
Councillor Harder.
Here.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor Elshantiri.
Present.
Councillor Caudry.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Here.
Councillor Shirelli.
Here.
Councillor Eglai.
Here.
Councillor Deans. Here. Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Conseiller Fleury.
Moi aussi.
Councillor Nussbaum.
Here.
Councillor McKenney.
Present.
Councillor Leeper.
Here.
Councillor Brockington.
Here.
Councillor Chernyshenko.
Present.
Conseiller Cloutier.
Present.
Conseiller Blais.
Present.
Councillor Derouz.
Here.
Councillor Moffat.
Here.
Councillor Kakish.
Present.
Councillor Hubley.
Here.
Mayor Watson.
Ici.
Le quorum est satisfait, Monsieur le Maire.
Merci. Confirmation of minutes, adoption de procès verbaux for the meeting of January 28, 2015 and special meeting of February 4th, 2015. Carried. Declarations of interest, including those originally arising from prior meetings. Déclaration de conflit d'intérêt. None. Communications as printed. Regrets. No regrets filed to date. Motion to introduce reports. Motion portant présentation d'un rapport. Conseiller Fleury et Tierney, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Que le rapport du jury de sélection
that the report from Selection Panel Ottawa Board of Health entitled Appointments Ottawa Board of Health, the report from the Selection Panel Ottawa Police Services Board entitled Appointments Ottawa Police Services Board, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Report 1, Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 1, Planning Committee Report 79B and 1A, and Transportation Committee Report 1 be received and considered. Pursuant to subsection 35.5 of Procedure Bylaw 2014-441, Council is being asked to consider the zoning bylaw item containing the Planning Committee Report 2, item 8 of the agenda.
Adopté. Carried.
Carried.
Selection Panel, Ottawa Board of Health, Report number 1, rapport numéro 1 de jury de sélection Conseil de santé d'Ottawa. The appointments as listed in the agenda. Carried. Selection Panel, Ottawa Police Services Report number 1, rapport numéro 1 de jury de sélection Commission de services policiers d'Ottawa. Appointments of the Ottawa Police Services Board as printed in the agenda. Carried. Committee reports, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Report number 1, rapport numéro 1 du Comité de l'Agriculture et des Affaires Rurales. Item number 3, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Terms of Reference, Mandat du Comité de l'Agriculture et des Affaires Rurales. The Council approve its terms of reference as outlined in this report and attached at revised document 1. Carried. Merci. Thank you, Councillor Moffat. Item number 4, nomination of Doug Thompson as a City of Ottawa representative on the Rideau Corridor Landscape Strategy Steering Committee. Nomination de Monsieur Doug Thompson à titre de
appointment of Mr. Doug Thompson as City of Ottawa representative in the steering committee for the Rideau Corridor.
Report number 79B, rapport numéro 19B du Comité de l'Urbanisme. We have a number of motions. So the first one, Councillor Harder, if you'd like to introduce it, seconded by Councillor Tierney. These are technical amendments, I understand.
Is it going to go up on the screen? Okay,
Yeah,
this
so
is the
these
first
are
one.
Go ahead.
The first one is, this is the one that has the, it's very large for all of you, rather than me reading everything out. And it has, it's the omnibus motion, so it would be at the front of your motions package on this item. Does everyone understand where I am, so I don't have to read the whole thing
And it's
out?
up on the screen as well.
Okay.
And it's attached a number of maps. These are all Mr. Moser, or who are we looking at in the end? These are all technical amendments as part of the omnibus motion.
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. And any changes that staff support from the Planning Committee November 24th in the fall in terms of councillor motions that were put forward that staff support.
And also I'd add that there are other councillor motions that will have to move separately, so this doesn't include everything.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions on the technical amendments as presented by Councillor Harder and Tierney?
Sorry. Yeah,
Councillor McKenny, please.
Just a point of clarification from staff. I notice under Part F, removing the maximum gross floor area restriction for office uses in the TMX subzone affecting Gladstone and Somerset Street. I understand that to mean that the office use from that floor space cap will be removed. And just for a point of clarification, can you just explain why it was included and why it should be taken out?
Mr. Mayor, through you, staff examined the direction of the Centretown Secondary Plan as adopted by Council and provided a package that initially had captured a number of land uses under floor space cap that really was derived from an analysis of retail. And as a result of delegations, we received direction from Planning Committee to take another look. And as a result, the package that we're now proposing still implements the direction of the Centertown Secondary Plan, but focuses that floor space cap on retail uses.
Sorry, just one more thing. Does it have any effect on the appeal that's right now before the OMB for the Centertown CDP? Does that?
Your Worship, the package implements the direction of the adopted secondary plan. Through the appeal process, if any of those items were to be overturned by the Ontario Municipal Board, then the corresponding zoning would accordingly be struck, and we would then return with a revised zoning approach.
Right, that answers your questions, Councillor. Thank you. So on the motion by Councillor Harder and Tierney, carried. Thank you. The next motion on this item is from Councillor Chernyshenko, seconded by Councillor McKenney, with respect to zoning review, once again, official plan implementation for major hubs and corridors. Councillor Chernyshenko, if you'd like to introduce your motion, please. I have it down here as a notice of motion, but it's not a notice of motion. I assume it's a motion,
No, it
correct?
would be a motion. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a motion. We'll just take that off. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it's also checked on my actual pieces of paper, so we should confirm this is all being done according to plan. Those who confirm for us seem occupied. I'm asking the clerk.
Confirm, Mr. Mayor.
What's that?
There we go. Thank you.
It is all being rectified. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Always good to have that clarified. I have two motions, very similar, which are essentially refining the traditional Main Street rezoning here to carve out a couple of very small areas. The first is for Hawthorne Avenue, which is abuts Main Street, where we are limiting the building height to 14.5 meters from what would normally be allowed a maximum of 20 meters in recognition of the immediately abutting residential neighborhood, creating more of a step-down effect. So that's the first motion, which has the whereas with Hawthorne and Echo Drive. The second motion relating to Bronson Avenue is quite similar, asking for the same thing for 2 blocks that immediately abut residential neighborhoods and residential streets, but also has a clause limiting commercial uses in wrapping around the corner, finding themselves on a residential street. So without reading what are very long motions, that describes the two of those.
Okay. And these are seconded by Councillor McKenney, and the second one, we should remove the check mark as notice of motion as
Also,
well.
both are motions, not notices of motion. Thank
Okay,
you.
does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns with respect to the first motion, which is Hawthorne and Echo Drive? Councillor Moffat.
Just a quick question. Obviously, the whole point of the zoning review is to implement the official plan. What does this mean that our official plan no longer aligns with the zoning on those properties?
Mr. Mayor, the two motions that the councillor is bringing forward doesn't fully meet the official plan, but it is within the official plan policy direction. It just doesn't fully meet that direction.
So it doesn't. I mean, the point I'm making is just that technically someone could come forward and use our official plan against this zoning. Is that possible?
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. There could be the opportunity for spot rezonings in those areas in future.
All right, thanks.
Councillor Harder.
Just for clarification, too, Mr. Mayor, is that while staff are not supporting them and they're not in the omnibus, they're not opposing them either. And we have done a lot of work on this, and what doesn't fully meet the intent of the official plan that we are supportive. Councillor Tierney and myself have spent quite a bit of time on this. Their changes make sense to me, and they also allow for the original intent of the official plan as well. So, for example, if on Hawthorne, for example, if the height that was in the original bylaw was to come in, then there would be an ability to have a rezoning for that, and it would be acceptable. So we agree that the changes make sense.
All right, thank you. Councillor Kakish, please.
I'm going to support the motion, but I just want clarification on which aspect of the OP it does not meet, just in terms of height or densification.
Mr. Mayor, through you, in the case of Bronson Avenue, there is no secondary plan, so the direction of the OP would permit up to 6 stories. In the case of Hawthorne, there is a secondary plan, and the secondary plan would also permit up to 6 stories.
Just a height issue then, in terms of the, okay.
All right, thank you. Councillor Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick confirmation or clarification. It's my understanding that there still may be some further work or tweaking on some secondary plans, despite all the work that we've done here going forward. For example, on the Maryville secondary plan, is that still in the works?
Mr. Mayor, through you, Councillor, that is correct. There is provisions within the omnibus motion that refer to the Maryville area that we previously discussed. And as you're aware, we will be having a visioning exercise in the Maryville area. And then if there are any corresponding changes that need to be made to the policy in that secondary plan, then we would bring that forward at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chernishenko, please.
Yes, thank you for clarifying questions asked by some of my colleagues were ones that I also wanted to put on the record. The community certainly recognizes, or if some residents don't, they need to recognize that because there is not a perfect alignment with the official plan, that there's always a possibility for spot rezoning. So while this is something people very much wanted, and I have worked with staff to make that possible, there has to be an awareness that that could happen. On the other hand, the support is generally quite strong for the objective of the traditional Main Street rezoning and its ability to revive, create a better street atmosphere, create something more akin to Bank Street on Bronson in terms of street atmosphere and the types of uses there. The one concern that remains a big one for the community is that a community design plan the city is not envisaging, does not have this area on a list for a community design plan. They're worried that there are not sufficient tools to, if you will, guide the redevelopment of the area. Can you just explain why this area is not slated for a community design plan, and perhaps what the pros and cons of, I guess I'm ending up asking a three-part question for you, can do it in three, what the pros and cons of that tool, and what else a community might do to try to better guide development and protect the desirable attributes of the area.
Mr. Mayor, community design plans are used to direct intensification, so areas where we want to see increased attention for development. So our transit-oriented development areas, for example, those are our key focus areas right now with the advancement of light rail. So because the areas that are in question in this particular situation, they're not target areas for intensification specifically, therefore they're not on our priority list of looking at community design plans. Communities need to be careful what tools one wishes for specifically around community design plans. They're not designed as protectionist plans. They are designed to direct intensification and the creation of tall buildings that you have seen, and certainly what we just recently approved even as early as yesterday with Preston Carling. So in terms of tools to address your current situation with the zoning, the only other strength of tool that we would have would be an official plan amendment to amend the current approved official plan to make any other changes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So on the first motion by Councillor Chernyshchenko, seconded by Councillor McKenney with respect to Hawthorne and Echo, carried. On the second motion by the same councillors on the Bronson Avenue corridor, carried. Councillor McKenney, you have a motion seconded by Councillor Chernyshchenko on the same item. If you'd like to introduce that, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When the report came to Planning Committee, it did obviously made sense to, make the zoning changes necessary to fit the official plan for traditional main streets, and for the majority of the traditional main streets, in my ward anyway, it made perfect sense. There's one area of Preston where it was recognized that we have an anomaly here, and as we all know from yesterday, Preston is under some acute intensification, and there were 3 CDPs that were done for the Preston area, and one of them is the Bayview Station. So the concern was around Preston Street, north of Somerset to Albert, and that part of Preston Street is presently 95% residential, and it just wasn't. I felt that there was a requirement to at least protect the residential character of that. So this motion, what it will do essentially, I've worked very closely with staff and with the chair and vice chair, and appreciate the help very much, since this is one of my first items up as a new councillor. We've met with the community. We had a very large turnout, and I think that, it's safe to say that the majority of people in that area want to see the character of that street maintained. So it's, there would be nothing healthy about, allowing the kind of height that this would, or the kind of density that this would. So what this motion will do is it will direct staff to go back to the Bayview Station District Secondary Plan and include this portion of Preston Street actually up to Rochester, so Preston to Rochester, Somerset to Albert, and with a view to maintaining the residential character of the area. So we'll be going back out into the community and amending that CDP.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Est-ce qu'il y a des autres questions sur cette sujet?
Any other questions on this item?
Motion presented by Councillor McKenney, seconded by Councillor Chernyshchenko. Carried. I know Councillor Harder would like to offer some final remarks before we vote on the motion as amended as Chair Planning. Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, everyone, for your attention. I wanted to point out that this really continues and finalizes the discussion that we started in the last term called Building a Livable Ottawa, a process that engaged more people online than we ever had seen before from every part of our city. It was an exciting time. And that was approved in December of 2013. And at the time, the Chair, Hume, and myself advised staff that we wanted them in a year to come back with a report, and they have so on time and on budget. And we met at the end of November, and we took in all the motions, and staff have worked over the last year. And I'm really proud to say that this report today zones over 100 kilometers of property in the City of Ottawa, and it brings certainty to our development, to our property owners, to our community associations, and to our residents. I want to thank staff very much for all the hard work that they've done, and certainly to my colleagues around the table that have been engaged and will continue to be engaged further to the omnibus motion plus the other motions that you've just hopefully will approve. Thank you very much.
Great. I'll just offer a comment of thanks as well to the Chair and Vice Chair of Planning, as well as the previous members of Planning and certainly our staff. This was one of the great concerns I think a lot of us had, the inconsistency that the zoning bylaw and the official plan did not always match up. This is going to bring greater certainty so that we don't have the kind of challenges that we've had in the past with spot zonings. It's not going to prevent people from asking, obviously, for zonings, but I think it gives us greater certainty and credibility to say, no, this is what is in the official plan, this is what is in the zoning bylaw, and move forward on a go-forward basis so that we don't have these gaping holes where one document is saying one thing, another is saying another. It's very confusing for members of neighborhoods and communities, as well as people that want to build. So congratulations to staff for a lot of heavy lifting over the last couple of years, and I appreciate the support of Council on this. On the motion as amended, carried. Adopté. Merci.
Carried. Thank you.
This item is Planning Committee terms of reference. Mandat du Comité de l'Urbanisme. Councillor Harder and Tierney have a amendment. If Councillor Harder would like to introduce that, seconded by Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's of a technical nature in regard to actually the words that were chosen to describe what we were doing. And so if you go right to the therefore be it resolved that the Planning Committee terms of reference, so 1A, calling it Planning and Infrastructure Portfolio, specifically the Planning and Growth Management Department. In 6, receive the reports from staff regarding the exercise of delegated authority on items within the committee's mandate. And lastly, amending the title, make recommendations on heritage protection by the Built Heritage Subcommittee, as opposed to the Heritage Advisory Committee.
Okay, on the amendment as presented by Councillors Harder and Tierney. Carried. Adopté. On the motion as amended, on the terms of reference, carried. Item number 7 is official plan amendment 3288 Greenbank Road, modification au plan officiel 3288 Chemin Greenbank. Carried. Planning Committee report number 2, comprehensive zoning bylaw 2008-250, anomalies and minor corrections Q1 2015, règlement zonage 2008 250, anomalies et corrections mineures, T1 rapport 2015. Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee and Planning Committee recommendations, both documents 1, 2, and documents 1 and 3. Carried. Transportation Committee report number 1, rapport numéro 1 du Comité des Transports, Transportation Committee terms of reference, mandat du Comité des Transports, committee recommendation as amended and printed in the agenda. Carried. A revised bulk consent agenda, ordre de jour regroupé révisé. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the bulk consent agenda? On the bulk consent agenda as presented, carried. Adopté. Merci. Revised disposition of items approved by committee under delegated authority suite à donner des articles ratifiés par les comités en vertu du pouvoir délégué révisé. Document 1 received. Motion to adopt reports. Motion portant adoption de rapport. Conseil Fleury et Tierney, s'il vous plaît.
Mr. Mayor,
that the report from the selection panel, Ottawa Board of Health entitled Appointments, Ottawa Board of Health, the report from the selection panel, Ottawa Police Services Board entitled Appointments, Ottawa Police Services Board, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Report 1, Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 1, Planning Committee Report 79B, 1A and 2, and Transportation Committee Report 1 be received and adopted as amended. Carried.
Merci. Motions of which notice have been previously given. Motion dont avis a été donné entièrement. Councillor Egli, seconded by Councillor Caudry. Councillor Egli, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a motion I introduced last council meeting, and it's to name a memorandum of naming for a kitchen in the Tanglewood Park Community Centre. This is to be named after Franz Geyer, who
kitchen was chosen because Franz, who passed away last year, for years and years and years, was that whenever there was any kind of a community event, he was a retired chef. He made the lasagna, the spaghetti, the chili, whatever, and people loved it. And they wanted to remember him in a special way for what he had given to the community. So I'm asking for your support to name the kitchen after this gentleman.
On the motion, carried, adopté. Thank you. Next is Councillor Tierney, seconded by Councillor Cloutier. Councillor Tierney, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Notice of motion was given on this. It's actually an amendment. There's specific wording that's required for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities as well as the Francophone Municipalities of Ontario. It's in front of you on the screen. I'll dispense with reading it because it's just going with the correct wording on this one.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion by Councillor Tierney, seconded by Councillor Cloutier? Carried. Carried. Thank you, and thank you for serving. Motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedure. Motion exigeant la suspension des règles de procédure. Are there any motions requiring suspension of the rules? Seeing none, notices of motion for consideration at a subsequent meeting. Avis de motion pour examen à réunion subséquente. Conseiller Dean, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is becoming tradition, or maybe has become tradition a long time ago. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. I'll dispense with the whereases, but the motion is, be it resolved that Ottawa City Council declare March 8th, 2015 International Women's Day in the City of Ottawa.
Okay, so we'll deal with that at the next council meeting. Are there any other motions for consideration at a subsequent meeting? Motion to introduce bylaws. Motion portant présentation de règlement. Conseil Fleury et Tierney, s'il vous plaît.
Mr. Mayor, that the bylaws on the agenda under motion to introduce bylaws, 3 readings, be read and passed.
Carried. Adopté. Merci. Confirmation bylaw. Règlement de ratification. Conseil Fleury et Tierney, s'il vous plaît.
That the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of council meeting on the 11th February 2015.
Carried. Adopté. Written inquiries. Madam Deputy Clerk. Adjournment. Councillor Fleury and Tierney.
Que les délibérations du Conseil du
that the proceedings of City Council meeting of February 11th, 2015 be adjourned.
Thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned.